Have you ever wondered about the true purpose behind ancient Egypt's elaborate death rituals? Beyond the gold and the grandeur, a far deeper secret lay hidden, one that archaeologists and historians have consistently overlooked. They tell us tales of mummification for an afterlife of earthly pleasures. But what if the very act of preserving the body was merely a sophisticated illusion? What if the real goal was not the preservation of the physical form, but something far more profound? We are about to strip away centuries of misinterpretation to reveal a hidden spiritual science, a wisdom so potent it promised not just an afterlife, but true immortality. The journey begins not in tombs filled with treasure, but in the human heart and the ancient Egyptian understanding of consciousness itself. It's a path that redefines everything you thought you knew about death and eternity. Prepare to see ancient Egypt not as a civilization obsessed with the dead, but as masters of living forever. And real quick, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos. Now let's get started. The common narrative surrounding mummification suggests a straightforward belief: preserve the body, and the soul will have a vessel in the afterlife. We see images of carefully wrapped pharaohs, their organs removed, all in an effort to cheat decay. This explanation, however, is far too simplistic to account for the immense resources and intricate rituals involved. Countless hours were dedicated, unparalleled wealth expended, for a process that seems, on the surface, to guarantee physical continuity. But the ancient Egyptians were not so naive as to believe a preserved corpse could truly live again. There had to be a deeper meaning, a spiritual technology disguised as a funerary rite. Perhaps the physical mummification was a symbolic act, a grand public display for the uninitiated, while the true work happened on an entirely different plane. It was a misdirection, a fascinating spectacle that diverted attention from the real esoteric practices unfolding in the shadows. The real objective was never about the earthly body, but something far more subtle and powerful, something directly connected to the sacred texts inscribed within their pyramids. This hidden purpose leads us directly into the revelations found within the pyramid texts and the actual path of the soul. Long before the elaborate Book of the Dead, the earliest royal tombs contained inscriptions known as the pyramid texts. These are not merely prayers for the deceased king, they are a sophisticated guidebook for the soul's perilous journey. They speak of celestial boats, of overcoming obstacles, and of uniting with the gods. The language is rich with symbolism, describing processes that transcend physical death. These texts outline a transformative voyage, not a simple transition to a waiting paradise. They detail specific spells and declarations meant to guide the consciousness, to navigate cosmic pathways. The initiates who understood these texts knew they were not about ensuring comfort in some heavenly field. Instead, they were instructions for achieving a higher state of being, a conscious ascension. This arduous path, detailed in ancient hieroglyphs, was intrinsically linked to a divine figure central to Egyptian understanding: Osiris. His story holds the very key to understanding the true nature of resurrection. Osiris, the god of the underworld and resurrection, is often depicted as a green-skinned ruler, eternally entwined with the cycles of life and death. His myth is one of betrayal, dismemberment, and miraculous rebirth, yet its true significance goes far beyond a simple narrative. This wasn't just a story they told, it was a blueprint. Many interpret his resurrection as a promise of life after death for everyone. However, for the ancient Egyptian initiates, Osiris represented a profound spiritual process that could be enacted while still living. His dismemberment was a metaphor for the fragmentation of consciousness, a state we all experience. His reassembly by Isis symbolizes the reunification of these scattered parts, leading to a higher, integrated state. This was not about physical return from the dead, but about overcoming spiritual death within oneself. Understanding Osiris profoundly shifts our perception of resurrection, bringing us closer to the sophisticated concept of the human soul, which the Egyptians saw not as one, but as multiple distinct components. The Ka, Ba, and Ak. The ancient Egyptians understood the human being not as a singular entity, but as a complex composite of interconnected parts, often described as a triple soul. The Ka, or life force, was the vital spark, the animating breath resident within the physical body. It was nourished by offerings, connected to one's essence and double. The Ba, often depicted as a human-headed bird, represented the personality, individuality, and mobility of the soul. It could travel between the earthly realm and the divine, carrying memories and experiences. The Ba was the part that often journeyed during dreams or ecstatic states, but then there was the Ak, the most mysterious and often overlooked aspect. The Ak was the transfigured, enlightened spirit, a state of glorious transformation achieved through spiritual work and rites. This wasn't something everyone automatically attained, it was an earned status. It was the ultimate goal, a divine union. This concept begins to reveal that their gods were not just external deities, but perhaps representations of these advanced states of consciousness awaiting exploration. When we see the multitude of Egyptian gods, Ra, Thoth, Hathor, Horus, we tend to think of them as separate, external deities ruling from on high. But what if these figures were not simply mythological beings, but rather personifications of specific states of illuminated consciousness? What if each god represented a unique aspect of human potentiality that could be awakened? Thoth, the god of wisdom, knowledge, and magic, might symbolize the awakening of higher intellect and inner gnosis. Hathor, goddess of love and joy, could represent the activation of profound emotional balance and compassion. These divine figures were not just worshipped, they were embodied. Initiates aimed to align themselves with these divine archetypes, to cultivate these qualities within their own being. The journey to becoming Osirified was not merely joining Osiris in the afterlife, but achieving the state of consciousness that Osiris represented. Wholeness, regeneration, and everlasting presence. This radical reinterpretation further challenges our understanding of their sacred texts, particularly the collection we commonly misname as the Book of the Dead, which was anything but a book for the dead. The collection of spells, hymns, and instructions we call the Book of the Dead is in reality a profound misnomer. Its actual ancient Egyptian title translates closer to the Book of Coming Forth by Day. This subtle difference is crucial. It fundamentally alters our understanding of its purpose. It was not a guide for navigating an underworld after death as a passive recipient. Instead, it was a practical manual, an active toolkit for the conscious individual to navigate spiritual planes, to emerge into the light of understanding. It offered the means to master the challenges of existence, both mortal and spiritual. This coming forth by day refers to enlightenment, to a conscious awakening that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It's a text for the living, for those undertaking an inner journey of transformation. And one of the most iconic images from this collection, the weighing of the heart, holds a similarly distorted meaning when viewed through a modern lens, masking its deeper symbolic and experiential truth. The scene is iconic. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, places the deceased's heart on a scale, balanced against Maat's feather of truth. If the heart is heavier than the feather, it is devoured by Ammit, the devourer of souls. This is often interpreted as a final judgment for entry into a heavenly paradise or eternal damnation. However, interpreting this solely as a post-mortem legal proceeding misses the profound initiatic meaning. The heart, to the Egyptians, was the seat of intelligence, emotion, and will, the entire consciousness. The feather of Maat represents cosmic order, truth, and balance. The ritual was not about some external judgment, but an internal assessment. It symbolized the initiate's ability to achieve inner harmony, to purify their consciousness from imbalance and untruth while still alive. This was a process of self-mastery, where one's intentions and actions were continually measured against universal principles. The true weighing happened long before physical death, during the sacred rites of initiation in their temples. The grand temples of ancient Egypt were far more than places of worship. They were centers of higher learning, spiritual hospitals, and most importantly, sites of profound initiation. These were not open to all. Only those deemed ready, those who had proven their dedication, were permitted to enter the deeper mysteries. The public saw rituals, but behind locked doors, something far more intense unfolded. These initiations were carefully designed psychological and spiritual journeys, pushing candidates to their limits, forcing them to confront their deepest fears and limitations. They involved symbolic deaths and rebirths, tests of character, and the acquisition of secret knowledge. The priests and priestesses who guided these processes were not merely religious figures, they were masters of human consciousness. They understood ancient techniques for altering awareness, for guiding individuals through profound transformative experiences. The goal was to strip away the illusion of the ordinary self and awaken the divine within. This was where the true secrets were guarded, the hidden knowledge passed down across generations by the priestly orders. The priests and priestesses of ancient Egypt were the custodians of immense knowledge, not just about religious rites, but about astronomy, medicine, engineering, and esoteric spirituality. They formed a dedicated class, safeguarding wisdom often deemed too potent or complex for the general populace. Their temples held vast libraries of papyri, detailing everything from the creation of the cosmos to the intricate workings of the human mind. Much of this knowledge was deliberately veiled in symbolic language, in allegories and metaphors, to ensure it was only understood by those prepared to receive it. This wasn't about exclusion. It was about protecting sensitive truths from misinterpretation or misuse. The true esoteric meaning of their gods and rituals was held exclusively within these circles. They understood the deeper purpose behind the animal forms of their gods, knowing they were not literal representations, but profound keys to unlocking specific aspects of reality and consciousness. The pantheon of Egyptian gods often featured animal heads or composite animal forms, Horus with the falcon head, Anubis with the jackal, Bastet as a cat. To dismiss this as primitive animal worship misses the point entirely. These animal forms were not arbitrary choices. They were intentional, sophisticated symbolic representations. Each animal embodied specific qualities, instincts, or natural principles that mirrored aspects of the cosmos or dimensions of human consciousness. The fierce loyalty of the jackal, the keen sight of the falcon, the serene independence of the cat, these were archetypal energies. By depicting gods in these forms, the Egyptians created a powerful, visual language encapsulating complex ideas. They understood that spirit connected with nature and that the attributes of the animal kingdom could serve as mirrors for higher spiritual truths. These forms were mnemonic devices designed to evoke specific states of mind or to represent cosmic forces. This intricate symbolic system extended beyond gods and animals, intertwining with the very fabric of the heavens through astronomical alignments and cosmic souls. The magnificent temples and pyramids of ancient Egypt are not randomly placed. Many are meticulously aligned with celestial phenomena. The rising of specific stars, the solstices, and equinoxes were incorporated into their architectural plans, reflecting a deep understanding of cosmology. This wasn't just about marking time, it was about connecting earthly structures to cosmic cycles. The priests believed that these alignments created sacred spaces, conduits for cosmic energies, influencing the spiritual practices within. They saw a profound interconnectedness between the microcosm of human existence and the macrocosm of the universe. The stars were not just distant lights, they were celestial beings, each influencing life on Earth. This belief system extended to the concept of cosmic souls, a collective consciousness perhaps accessible through these alignments. Their understanding blurred the lines between human and divine, between earth and sky. It led directly to a crucial question. If this profound transformation was possible, who exactly was allowed to achieve this state of immortality? The popular understanding holds that nearly all Egyptians aimed for an afterlife, with pharaohs having the most elaborate preparations. However, the true path to immortality, the genuine spiritual transformation, was likely reserved for an elite few. This wasn't about wealth or social status alone, but about spiritual readiness and dedication. The complex initiations, the rigorous intellectual demands of mastering the sacred texts, and the severe discipline required meant that only a select number could truly pursue the path of the Ak. The elaborate mummification rites for commoners might have been a kind of symbolic reassurance, a comforting veneer for a population not equipped or permitted to undertake the deeper journey. The inscriptions and teachings suggest a tiered system of spiritual attainment, with different paths leading to different posthumous experiences. Not everyone achieved the same conscious, eternal existence. This stark reality leads us to the enigmatic process known as the Ak transformation, a mystery still challenging our perception of their beliefs. The Ak transformation was the pinnacle of the ancient Egyptian spiritual journey, representing the ultimate state of transfigured consciousness. It was not merely survival in an afterlife, it was an active, glorified form of being, a radiant spirit capable of interacting with the divine realms. This was the state Osiris embodied after his resurrection. An eternal, conscious presence. The details of how this transformation was achieved remain shrouded in mystery, hidden within the most esoteric texts and ritual practices. It involved a complete integration of the Ka and Ba, guided by the wisdom of the pyramid texts and the Book of Coming Forth by Day. It was a conscious shedding of the illusions of the mortal world. This wasn't a passive waiting game after death. It was an active pursuit, a spiritual alchemy performed while alive or through carefully orchestrated post-mortem rites. The Ak, once formed, was then able to navigate the higher dimensions, a process that fundamentally reshapes the idea of the afterlife from a physical journey to a profoundly inner one. For the ancient Egyptians, the afterlife was not simply a physical destination, a field of reeds where one farmed for eternity. While commoners might have hoped for such a pleasant outcome, the initiated understood it as an inner journey, a progression through states of consciousness. The underworld duet was not a geographical location, but a metaphor for the deeper subconscious realms of the human psyche. The terrifying demons and obstacles described in the funerary texts were not external monsters, but personifications of psychological barriers, inner demons, and unpurified desires that had to be confronted and overcome. Each spell or utterance was a tool for spiritual mastery, a way to navigate these internal landscapes. The deceased, or rather the initiated, was an active participant in their own liberation. This was a journey of self-discovery and purification, leading to a profound transformation of awareness. However, this profound understanding, this esoteric spiritual science, faced deliberate suppression, leading to banned texts and erased teachings. Throughout ancient Egyptian history, there were periods of profound religious upheaval, most notably during the Amarna period under Akhenaten, who attempted to establish a monotheistic worship of Aten. But beyond this, there were likely countless instances where certain texts, certain interpretations, and certain practices were deemed heresy or too dangerous for wider dissemination. This meant deliberate erasure. As doctrines shifted, as power structures changed, certain teachings were lost, suppressed, or deliberately omitted from public records. The true extent of their esoteric knowledge may have been far greater than what has survived. We only possess fragments, often reinterpreted by later, less enlightened generations. Imagine entire libraries of spiritual science, volumes on consciousness, alchemy, and astral projection, now reduced to cryptic symbols or entirely lost to time. What if the most profound secrets, those promising true immortality, were precisely the ones deemed too powerful, too transformative, to remain accessible? This raises the ultimate question. Was immortality the true, underlying goal of their entire civilization? Given the unparalleled focus on eternity, the elaborate death rites, the sophisticated understanding of the soul, and the deep symbolism embedded in their sacred texts, it becomes increasingly clear. The true aim of ancient Egyptian civilization was not merely to live well, but to master death itself and achieve conscious immortality. This was not a desire for endless physical life, but for an eternal, transfigured state of being. Every pyramid, every temple, every intricate inscription points to this grand ambition. Their rituals, their myths, their very social structure seemed geared towards this ultimate human quest. They were a civilization obsessed not with death, but with transcending it, with becoming divine. They believed it was possible to emerge from the cycle of birth and death, to become an Ak, a glorious, enduring spirit. This profound pursuit shaped every aspect of their existence, leaving us clues to a spiritual science still waiting to be fully deciphered. Make sure to subscribe for more religious videos and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.